I will call to order the Tuesday, May 16th, 2023 meeting of the Buckland Selectboard here at the Buckland Town Hall, and also available through Zoom with instructions for that on the town's website. Our first item is an appointment at 5:30 with Brian McHugh from the Franklin County Regional Housing Authority regarding the town's contract with the Housing Authority that is about to expire.
That's right.
Brian.
Thank you for having me. I'm Brian McHugh, Director of Community Development at the Authority. I want to just give you a little background on our agency and the involvement with the town over the years. We have been writing community development block grants on behalf of Buckland or a strong joint applicant with up till about 2009 or 10. 17 different times the town has participated in the community development block grant program. The last few times, you've had Breezeway Farms writing your grant applications lately, and if there's a housing rehab component to that grant, then they hire us out to be a subcontractor to run the housing rehab program. So the housing rehab program is designed to help low and moderate income residents in town get their houses fixed up, basically. Low and moderate income is defined as 80% of the median income. So that's right now about $52,000 for one person and almost $80,000 for, well, it's going up to 56 and about 80,000 for a family of four. And so we've been running this program since the early 80s.
I can't hear a thing.
Oh,
Did this connect to you?
Maybe. Turn it off.
Hi, Kara. I'm going to mute you. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay. I actually meant that you couldn't hear us.
I thought so too.
Yeah. So anyway, as a result of participating in the program 17 different times, there's about $1 million that's out there in outstanding loans that we've given out over the years on behalf of the town. Again, the program's designed to correct code violations, bring houses up to code, correct sanitary code violations, building, electrical, plumbing, wells, septic systems, anything that goes into a house as a system. It's not a remodeling program. Is there a problem again? No? Okay. I'll try not to pay attention to that. And what we do is we qualify applicants. There's a whole application process. We do the inspections of the work that needs to be done. We do write-ups. We put together specifications, put the jobs out to bid, oversee the projects, from beginning to end. In 2013, we signed an agreement with the town in August 2013 to handle the funds that are paid back. So they're loans that are given out. They're deferred payment, 0% interest loans that are paid off when the houses transfer ownership. So money comes back to the town, and that's that $1 million that's out there that will eventually come back to the town as houses are turned over. So the agreement that we have right now with the town is that all that money that's been coming back gets returned to you if it originated 5 years or more than 5 years from the grant closeout date. So right now, the last time you participated in a housing rehab was included when your community development block grants was 2016. It's been 5 years since that closed out. So basically, when somebody pays off the money, it goes back to the town, and over the last since 2017, about $150,000 has come back to the town. So there's a servicing fee we have to send to the state. We get a servicing fee, but by and large, you get all that money back. For many towns, we have different agreements with a lot of different towns. Some towns allow us to use all of that money to reloan to do more housing rehab projects. Some towns take half of it, and we get half of it and put it into a fund, and we're able to reloan it. And we get a percentage of that because it's a lot of administrative work to put these projects together. Right now, what we're looking at doing is we're hoping to extend contracts just for a year's time right now, the contract that's been in place for the last 10 years, because we have some ideas on how we might want to propose to use that money, whether it's to put it into a revolving fund to do some housing rehab in town. There is a need. We have 5 people on a waiting list right now. You have about $47,000 in the pot that we hold on your behalf because we got some payoffs that were within that 5-year period, 5 years from closeout. I'm sorry if it becomes confusing, but we're holding about $47,000. None of the projects that rise to the level of emergency projects. We tend to, when a town gets under $50,000 in the pot, we tend to reserve that for a failed septic system or heating system or leaking roof or something like that. But we're seeing more and more of a need for these funds across the county as people stay in place. The wages aren't going up with the cost of building projects, and so we're getting a lot of people that are clamoring for this money, and we'd like to at least propose another a program that might give us a little more flexibility if we use some of the money that comes back to the town. But I'm not ready to present that yet. I just wanted to sort of, just keep the agreement that we have in place, which is that you get all the money back right now, and then later on in the year come back to sort of present a proposal. And you can decide you want to keep it the way it is right now, or at least listen. Yeah, I can show you what kind of need there is in town, because there hasn't been a housing program for the last 6 or 7 years, and there's a demand that's building up right now. And that's just with people that call into us that are referrals, like from the Board of Health or Building Department. It's not us advertising that there's, it's out there. So there's probably more of a need out there than we have numbers for right now. So that's what I'm asking for tonight, is just to extend what's in place. And again, I will come back with
Okay.
a program.
No reason not to.
Well, so since 2016, I think Buckland has been using its CDBG grant funding for the road reconstruction and improvement programs, and has not been prioritizing but also the food pantry. So you have the food pantry, and then your road reconstruction. The housing component has not risen to a level in front of the board anyway, or being proposed as a use of those funds, and it certainly is an eligible fund. As we find that we have fewer and fewer roads that are going to qualify for CDBG improvement, there's certainly going to be some room to switch gears. But we also need to see what the DHCD, under the new administration, because I know that DHCD may not exist as a DHCD, Department of Housing and Community Development. I know that they're looking at bringing housing out as its own secretariat. So we'll see how that plays out with the grant funding. But I can agree that there is a need. The assessors have been working with FERCog in different phases on an assessment of housing stock that may be in distress. They've identified probably a dozen properties that would certainly benefit from some sort of intervention. And as Brian pointed out, funds have been coming back to the town, and those have been accruing in a special revenue fund that is available to the town at the select board's recommendation to town meeting for future appropriation for similar activities. So I really think that if they're willing to sort of work with us and be the overseer of these projects and funds, then I think we're in a good position to move forward. I'd like to see us look at that as an option.
The 47,000 is available to you, or is that part of?
To the residents of Buckland, actually. So
Through you, though?
Through us.
Not
because-
through the CDBG grant process?
Right, so they originated the CDBG grant funds,
Yes.
and then when it came back,
Programming.
because it had been within that 5 years, still within 5 years of grant closeout, the agreement, and that's part of the requirement, it's considered program income.
Right.
So it has to be used for a CDBG eligible activity, and this is one of them. So
Okay.
it could be used for something different, and there's a provision in the agreement right now to reprogram those funds into a CDBG eligible activity. We could do that, but we could get a call tomorrow on a failed septic system.
Right.
And someone who has nowhere else to turn. And this isn't to say we're asking you to be part of a future grant application. I'm assuming that you can still stick with Breezeway Farms. I know Linda Overing very well. We communicate a lot. especially about housing rehab. And if, I know we contacted Heather just before the last application to see if there was a little room to fit it in, like just 3 units of housing rehab. But what we're thinking, not to get off too far off topic here, but in the future, if there's room to fit in some housing rehab, then we may come to you and try to couple you with a few towns as in a joint application. You can still have your own application if you have an infrastructure project or something like that, and then you can be part of a joint application. You can be both. You just can't. They'll calculate how much money you're looking for combined. It's not a way of getting around it. You're only going to be eligible for X amount, in that coming year. But that's something we can, have conversations as the year goes on.
Okay. So is the contract extension in place, or should we vote to authorize it, or wait until we actually have a contract?
You should have received did you receive an extension? It's just an addendum to the contract to extend it for a year.
Okay.
So I think you have it with
Yes.
Sharon sent that to you? Yeah. So it's just to keep it in exactly the way it is. This August 13th, I think, is the date on it. The original? Yeah, August 13th. I have the addendum right here, actually, if you want it. It's a 1-pager.
Oh, I guess I may.
Do you have any materials? It's
No,
on-
you just have the letter. The addendum was in the
Okay.
part of the contract
Okay.
that was in the.
Yeah, and all it's saying is for 1 year
Yeah.
from August 13th to 2023 to August 13th, 2024.
Okay, so the motion would be to sign the addendum,
Yeah.
the chair or the board or the
The chair.
town administrator?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can sign it tonight, or I can bring it back. I wasn't sure if that was something that you wanted to do tonight, or if.
I'm okay with it unless we think.
I'm okay
Clint-
with it.
I don't think Clint will have a different
I don't
point of
think
view.
they'll object.
So you made a motion to sign it, and I'll second
There we
it,
go.
so.
All right. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed no, it's unanimous.
He's to sign things in his last time, so it's important.
All right, thank you,
Thank
Brian.
you so much, appreciate
Good
it.
to see you.
All right, we'll see you again.
Brian, would you scan a copy back to me?
What's that?
Would you scan a copy back? to me?
Yes, because we'll sign it. Our executive director will sign this and I'll get it back to you. Okay, all right, thanks so much.
All right, next, town clerk is with us to review the town election warrant.
Yes, so you should have a copy of the warrant.
We do?
There is one person running for each office except constable. And there are 3 questions. So we just need to,
All of which we've discussed before. This
Yep.
isn't new.
so we need approval and signature, and then it needs to get posted.
Okay,
We're well in advance of the 7-day requirement, but I thought, not knowing if you were gonna have a meeting on the 30th, that this would be the time to do it, because I know you're not meeting on the 23rd, right?
2 signatures enough?
I think so, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's
that's
a majority.
All right, I'll move to sign the election warrant for June 6, 2023.
And I second it, yes.
You should have an archival copy there, and then I'll just make copies for them.
In your documents that you signed?
Okay,
Yeah.
get to that later, or do you want it now?
I'll get it from Heather tomorrow morning.
Perfect.
Yep.
And then the other
But we
couple of
have-
things.
We haven't voted yet.
Oh,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no? Unanimous. Okay.
and I would also like to do 2 robocalls, reverse 911 calls. One about mail ballots, just to kind of put that out there a little bit more. We just sent 7 out today, but that's not a lot compared to the state elections, but just to kind of give that option to people. And then one probably days beforehand saying this is the election and time and place, so.
Okay.
I think that's a good idea, yeah.
And we had previously said no pre-election day in-person voting.
Right.
Right, okay. Not ahead or a motion
I don't know,
for
whatever
the
works for you guys.
robocalls?
A motion is okay.
All right, we'll move.
You moved it?
Sure, move approval of the robocalls as explained by the town clerk.
And I'll second it.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It's unanimous.
Okay, and the last item is constables/police at elections, which Clint is, living in real terms tonight.
Right.
But from the election office, Secretary of State, Select Board is in consultation with election officers and registrars shall detail a sufficient number of police officers or constables for each building that contains a polling place to protect election workers with interference from their duties. So I'm not sure whether we have to have this whole issue of constables still being required at elections, but then they're not really police certified. Whether we're just gonna have our constables come and cover the election, or whether we need to have a cop. And it would be helpful to have Clint's input in this, since he knows this pretty well.
Fine.
So I think Clint's given you input.
Yeah, he's saying we need to hire police.
Right, so,
I've heard that from
yeah,
him.
yeah.
So I guess the question is, do we just not have the constables come at all? Do we have a police officer there for the entire time? And then can the chief actually get somebody? I mean, our election's not the same time as Shelburne's, theirs is tonight, so that's good. But going forward, looking at primaries and state and federal elections, that's gonna be a bit of an issue if everybody's having them on the same days.
Well, we can make the decision for this one and then
Yes.
see how it all, okay?
But I don't know that it's in the select board's discretion.
It says, according to my contact in the Secretary of State's office, it says Select Board, in consultation with elected officials or registrars, which I'm both, shall detail a sufficient number of police officers. And I've always kind of understood that to mean that you assign them, or you can assign me to find them.
But I think it says police officer.
Where does constables come in
It
that?
says police officers or constables.
But on, the town meeting voted to not have constables, and there's a
Right.
ballot question to eliminate them. If you do, I think this is the last time that you'd be able to get away with having a constable, but going forward, it's going to be police officer and police
Yes.
officer only.
I guess that's a question, can we just use the constables for this last time at a local election? That's not controversial.
But Clint's opinion is we should have a police officer.
Yes.
Well, I would certainly go with that.
More money.
More money, obviously.
Right. How long is they have all day to vote, right?
It's 10 to 8.
10 to 8. So we could talk to Chief Bartle too, I mean, where's,
I mean, this is one of those, I think, unintended
right.
consequences
This is
of
the thing.
police reform.
Yes.
But on the other hand, we want to make sure that we're,
It just becomes a detail, if he's got someone who's been in a detail, I wonder, yeah.
So I will say that last year, for one of the elections, I can't remember if it was this November or September, and because it was, everywhere across the state same day, I asked him if we could get a police detail, because I knew this was coming up, and he said, no, I can't find anybody, and I said, well, can you get the guy who's on the day detail to at least come through the polls a few times during the day, if he's now out on the call? And I think it was Kurt. I think we saw him once. Somebody came through, or it might have been Chief. But that's not sufficient, because if there were to be a problem, you'd want to have somebody right there.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't anticipate for this election there would be, so I guess,
I don't know, that's, select board position could be tough.
so I don't know if you want to table this till your meeting at the end of the month, so that Clint can, I've had some conversations with Clint by email, but without him here.
Well, the other thing, I'd like to consult with Greg about availability.
Yeah.
I don't know whether we can make it sort of contingent on availability. So let's wait and
Okay, so we'll
fill
table
in
that.
the question marks, right? Okay.
but you still have to designate polling places too, right?
Well, the polling place is designated in the warrant, it's here. I don't think it's a separate action.
Okay, all right. If so, you can come back and we can designate a polling place.
Yeah. I do think it's a separate vote.
Okay, I'll look into that. I mean, you could vote on designating the polling place here at, 1 William Street.
So move. I moved it.
Second.
Further discussion, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed no, it's unanimous. Good, it's done at least, maybe
All right,
twice.
so then we'll talk about Constable
Constables.
Sush. You guys will check with Chief about what availability is?
Yeah,
Believe me, it's going to be, Karen's absolutely right, it's going to be an issue, but I also don't want to put ourselves in a position where we're not,
Exactly.
and I guess it has to be a Buckland officer still?
Good question.
No?
Well, we have a chief that's, maybe the chief should be here.
We have several residents who are officers,
Yeah.
unless they're otherwise engaged, because every town is dealing with police reform and what that means.
Yeah, they
It
are.
wouldn't be bad to have a police officer here also to discuss the sharing. People are still talking about it, so it wouldn't be bad to have someone available to chat. Okay,
All right, we'll
Next
figure it
time.
out the week before
right,
the
we'll
election.
make you come back.
Thanks.
All right, next on the list is town administrator evaluation. As I understand the process, the town administrator does a self-evaluation, submits it to the three of us. We each do our individual evaluation, and the chair then combines it into one narrative. The whole process being public. I think our individual ones are not necessarily public, but I don't see any reason.
and it's all being held up because your town administrator has not completed her self-evaluation,
Okay.
so.
But I do want to complete it at
I
our
know,
next meeting.
I know.
Otherwise, we'll have a
It's-
special
you
on
know,
June 5th.
It's one of those things that when I sit down to do it, I get so overwhelmed.
It's quite the form.
It is, it is. It's
But I
a
would be
great,
happy with a narrative as well.
it's a great process.
Yeah.
And I do want to give it the due that it deserves. I just need to commit myself to it. I'll
Okay.
lock myself in my office tomorrow. and-
Very good. All right. Recreation and pool staffing recommendations. Cindy Schwartz.
Hi.
Hi.
So I just have hired, or not formally hired, but we've done a screening committee of Pam and Carol Foote, Pam Guyette and Carol Foote. And we came up with this wonderful team. Very happy with them, and I think they're gonna be great. So I just need your approval, so I can send their packet off to them and get them on board.
Okay. I want to ask, how many of them are going to be available through Labor Day weekend? Have you wrestled with that yet?
I've kind of tentatively played with the schedule. They've
Yeah.
all kind of, I think we'll be
A
okay.
lot of them will still be in school, will be in high school. They won't
Yeah,
be-
there's a couple of them
they'll
that
be
are going off to
yeah.
college.
Yeah.
And I have Zoe, of course. She said that she would be backup for us, so
Okay.
I kind of.
I know that's always a difficult,
Yeah.
Yes.
difficult
I'm
weekend.
looking at these kids. at
Once
home.
they go back to
They'll
school,
be
it's
in
like,
school.
it's
You have
tough.
to have enough local people to make it work.
Ryan Blanker, he's from Northfield,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he'll be able to pull through for us.
Okay.
But
All right, there's motion on the motion sheet.
There's a motion on the motion sheet. Okay, I move to authorize the town administrator to sign a letter of hire for each of the individuals recommended by the Recreation Committee.
I will second that.
Any further discussion?
You got it. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed no.
Practicing.
That's good.
It's going down in importance.
All right, thank you. And
Thank you.
it's
Thank you,
still
Cindy, for-
going well, fingers crossed?
Yep, we
I-
are
I-
going full steam ahead
I keep
right
driving
now.
by, one of these times when I going by,
This
that
week,
was- yeah.
this week, there's a lot of subs in there right
Yeah,
now.
it looked like there was a lot of vehicles the other, last week, when I was gonna stop it way back from the, transfer station, but I just got too many,
Yeah, there's a
workers
lot,
in there.
there's a lot
Lot
going on
going
right
on.
now, and.
looking good though.
It is looking really good.
Nice.
It's a little dusty up there. We need a little rain, but then I don't want rain because I want them to keep going.
Right.
Yeah.
But we have the inmates this week, so I've,
Do some painting.
well, they're mostly putting furniture together.
Are they?
We have like 20 lounge chairs, 5 tables. I mean, so they've been working on that. They did a little bit of work up at the pavilion area, but I've got them all week, so
Nice.
we'll plug away at that.
All right. You guys have done a great job, I'm telling you.
A dream come
The
true.
dream
Yes.
come true.
All right.
Very much so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, salt shed update. I think that's the town administrator.
So things are going really well as far as the preliminary permitting and getting the specs and the design together. And by design, a concrete pad that will be large enough to accommodate the clear span tarp covering. We are going very, very low tech, but very efficient. Much like the DOT tents that you see, you have the specs in your packets. It does require a request for determination of applicability to the Wetlands Protection Act from Conservation Commission, so that has been filed, and it also requires a special permit for a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals. And so I'm just looking for your authorization to represent the board via the town at these meetings and continue to work towards
Okay.
towards that.
Do you got a motion, or you want me to do it?
You do.
I'll do it, okay. I move to authorize the town administrator to file the permit applications on the town's behalf.
I will second that. Any further discussion?
None.
Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
It looks like the conservation will meet on the 5th of June, and then zoning board would be meeting on the 7th of June. Certainly, I'll make sure that you have those dates if you're interested in participating in the conservation meet by Zoom, and I think the zoning board will be here, but certainly, welcome to participate, and Highway will be there. We're being represented by John Wyman and Dave Veerland.
Oh, good.
So that's great, as well as Terry Reynolds, who is doing our site work. So I have a fantastic team moving this forward. We will not go out to bid until after we determine the final cost of the pool. As you know, the bulk of the funding for this project is tied up in our ARPA funds, and we'll need to know that the pool does not actually need those funds before we can commit to going out to bid. But,
Okay,
Great.
but fingers crossed, it's moving forward.
crossed. All right.
Your shared service, IMA, unfortunately, we do not have that back from council, so we'll have to table that to your next meeting.
All right, but there are preparations underway.
Yes, yes.
In detail, I imagine.
Oh, my goodness.
Lots of,
Yeah.
lots of things to be done to make this happen. The getting it back from Collins Center, we don't anticipate any
No.
issues, it's just,
No, we're just sort of going through some of the last details. One of the issues, and actually this is a good conversation, is whether or not a lease agreement is required for the Shelburne Police Department to have a office here in the building, whether or not we want to formalize that, or if that's something that that we.
Where would you, in this building, several citizens have hit me up with it, where would you think of having room in this building? Everything seems to be pretty full, so.
That's a great question.
Because, I mean, you get the upper stairs, but I don't, it better be in the first floor where people can get,
Yeah.
you're still looking, you think there is room somewhere though, huh?
We originally had designated, at least in our imagination, that we would use the front office, which is where Sherry Clark.
Yes,
the
yeah, I
executive
thought of that
assistant-
too
Yep.
myself, yeah.
But that office is being used at least a day a week by another employee who does our accounts payable and does our, some of our minutes and boards work. I don't know if that office would work as a shared office between that individual and the police department, or if we need to do a little more shuffling. So we're figuring out how that might best work so that everybody's needs are met.
When we first were talking about it, it was the idea to have some police presence. You know, having a cruiser out front once in a while to see her job inside, having them walk the streets, which probably will happen, but I don't know if there couldn't be a shared office, only because the officer doesn't have to be in there all the time on a day when whatever person is using it.
Right.
I think it would work, I do.
Yeah, and really the concern that was raised about whether or not they needed the privacy is they won't be storing any materials here. There won't be a filing cabinet full of people's personal information. So all of that is sort of kept on, secured laptops at this point. So I do think that some sort of shared office could be managed. It's just a matter of seeing how it works out and then making adjustments from there.
Good, I hope so. It'd work well for the town and for the people,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Shelburne residents might use it as well, because it would be something that is here in the village, and more readily available for the casual. If somebody wants to come in and file a permit for license to carry, or just drop off some paperwork.
I think even license to carry, there might be paperwork, but you probably, then you take the trip to the main office to do that, the fingerprinting and the things, so. Yeah, I was thinking of it as a place to get out of the weather for a moment, to have a phone unit at the desk and, where they can still have a presence in town. It's a good feeling.
Yeah, yep, and we're determined to make it happen, but that is one of the
Great.
discussions that we're having with the Collins Center about that, and how to make that, how formal that needs to be in the IMA. And I think that's just something that's, we're still working
I can
through.
see the formality, but I certainly hope we would retain flexibility. Because circumstances could change in terms of
Yep.
the building
Yep,
and
we're gonna-
even other buildings
We
possibly.
let it out.
Yeah,
So,
walking the line as
Right.
carefully as possible.
okay.
Yeah.
And was that a police reference, walking the line?
Walking the line, there you go.
All right, Memorial Day Parade permit, nothing different, same as usual, 10 a.m. on Memorial Day, starting at McCusker's on the Iron Bridge across to the Shelburne Falls side. How far?
I think they go to Buckland School.
Anyway, that's not our business.
Yep, I think
Yeah,
what they do on that side.
That's right.
Yeah, they go to the Buckland School and,
but that makes sense.
Right.
yeah.
All right, motion, there's a motion on the flip page.
Okay, I move to approve the Memorial Day Parade permit, allowing the procession to start at 10 a.m. at McCusker's Market and over the Iron Bridge.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, no. It's unanimous. Minutes, I'm good with the minutes as written.
Me too, I've read them, yeah.
All right, I'll move to approve the minutes of April 18th, 2023 as written.
And I'll second that.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It's unanimous. Sewer rate.
Great. So Kara is on the call here. She can hopefully walk us through this a little bit better than I would be able to. But the long and the short of it is that this is an annual process and that is completed about this time of year. We try to do it earlier and earlier each year so that we are capturing these receipts in the FY20 in the same fiscal year. One of the things that had been happening for a long time is that we were doing it later, and it always caused a concern because the receipts were coming in the next fiscal year.
Okay.
So Kara and Mike Coachella, who is our town accountant, work on this. They take the expenses, the budget as appropriated for FY23, They calculate it with a usage, which they work in companionship with the Shelburne Falls Fire District to get those. And then they put it all into the magic formula mixer. And I'll let Kara talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, no, that pretty much sums it up. So it takes into account everything, operating costs, salaries, health insurance, retirement, basically everything that's needed for that plant to run, and then takes the total of those numbers and distributes it across each household based on their usage. So we get the numbers, like Heather said, from the Shelburne Falls Water District. We use the numbers from September of 2021 to September of 2022. So we are like about a year behind, but it is actual usage numbers that we use to generate the billing for the sewer. And then Mike, our accountant, works his magic and finds that magic number that gets us exactly what we need. So the Buckland portion comes to about $181,000 is what needs to be raised to cover that, with a rate of 0.0731. It gets us to $180,973 and change. Which is just about what we need to raise. It also takes into account, some people have outside water meters for water that they use in their gardens or to fill a pool. We don't charge for those because it doesn't actually make its way into the sewer. So that is deducted out, which is something that I believe you guys have already signed off on, perhaps at your last meeting. So that's the number we need to get to. So that's the rate we need to apply to make that happen.
And I'll
Is there
also,
anything?
I'll point out, I've got the 5-year historical average, or the 5-year historical overview on the screen. You'll notice that our usage is up, but we've still had a slight decrease in the rate. That is due to very frugal budgeting, a very well-managed sewer facility. Our staff does a fantastic job of doing the work with a finite amount of dollars. And also, we've also received a lot of grants that have helped keep our capital costs down. So we've been able to get projects done and stay off DEP's radar by offsetting the money we have to raise and appropriate with state funding.
Right.
So I'm appreciative of Kara and Mike's hard work, but it is a group effort, and wastewater deserves quite a bit of credit for the expense side of things.
And, go ahead. I was gonna say,
No, I was just agreeing. Absolutely.
as do you for the grants.
Well,
We don't
like I
wanna-
said, it's a group effort.
Yes, but
We're
you
all
didn't
in this
mention you in the
together,
group,
but
so.
thank you. But also too, I think that the residents do a fantastic job of conserving water, and that is certainly noted too, that we don't see any great spikes in our water usage. And so again, it's a collaborative effort, and the numbers, to see stability like that over 5 years
Yeah.
is really, many communities will actually, when they come to this part of their rate setting, is they'll set the rates 3 or 4 years out into the future and allow themselves some, to give the residents some stability in their billing. But you don't have to do that because
So stable.
it just happens naturally, so it works well.
And just for the record, that FY20 rate, I'm sure, is .0746.
Yes, yes,
Um,
missing a zero.
What are the carry forwards? I don't understand that.
Carry forwards, those are the line items that you budget generally in Articles, well, in the general budget, they're Article 6. In the sewer budget, it's usually 14 or 15. It's the small amounts that we carry forward for the audits. We carry money forward, which means it accrues from year to year. We do that for the reed bed maintenance account.
That's why it's so high. I mean, 251,000 is not a small amounts, but.
Right,
it's-
right, so that would probably be the capital line that you're looking
Right,
at. And
okay,
so
that makes sense.
As we put money aside each year for capital costs, it does carry forward from year to year, so it's available to us.
And Shelburne goes through the same process.
Shelburne goes through the
Yeah.
same process.
Does their rate vary much from us? I should know that. but-
You know what, I should also know that. I'll have to put together a second column or a second row for the Shelburne rates for comparison. But they are, they're using the same expense number, just slightly lower because they don't have as many expenses as Buckland does, since it's a plant on our side. But I don't know what their usage looks like.
So I don't see a motion, but I assume we should be setting this sewer user fee rate at .0732 per cubic foot,
Yes.
correct?
Thank you.
That's a motion.
Second it?
All right. Any further discussion? Kara, anything more?
Nope, nothing more, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kara.
No further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. It's unanimous. All right. We are down to the bottom section. No 48 hours in advance, not 40 hours in advance items.
No.
Select board member concerns?
No?
No, I don't think so. Town administrator's report. News.
Great. Well, while Kara is still on the call, I want to just mention that today Kara and her counterpart in Shelburne, Angel, put together a health and wealth fair for employees. There was an excellent turnout of both vendors and staff. All of our healthcare providers, including dental and vision and HCGIT, and Kara, who was the woman that was doing the office, the de-stressing at your desk?
That is something set up through HCGIT. They have a wellness program, and we were allowed to pick 3 topics, and they sent 3 presenters out that they covered the cost for, which was just phenomenal. We had Distress at Your Desk, we had How to Build a Healthy Brown Bag Lunch, and we had Comfort Foods Made Healthy, in addition to all of the other presenters that Heather just mentioned about our different insurance groups. So that was something provided by HCGIT, but we got to pick the topics, and we both, Angel from the Shelburne side and I, put out a survey to all of the employees for whoever had any input on what they were most interested in, and those were the 3 topics that overlapped the most. So they were sent from the Group Insurance Trust.
Yeah.
Great.
And there was a great raffle table, there was fantastic snacks.
Healthy.
Very healthy, very healthy. Yeah, it was nice to work on a project that was collaborative, and this was something that Kara and Angel came up with on their own and really followed through, and it made for a nice afternoon, so.
Great, thank you.
Good.
Thank you and Angel.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to put together, and really nice to collaborate on something with Shelburne. You know, we're so close. It was nice to kind of get to know them a little bit better. So it was
Good.
wonderful.
Good. Okay.
All right, so I was invited to a Microsoft Teams call today for a project that has been escalated by Mass DOT. It has an official Mass DOT project number and a lot of numerals that go after that, but essentially it's a reconstruction of Ashfield Road from North Street to Buckland Recreation. It'll encompass about 1.2 miles worth of 112, otherwise known as Ashfield Road. This project has been on Mass DOT's radar and on their to-do list for some time, and as I understand it, it was projected for many years out from now. It looks like it's being escalated. And I think that would be as a result of our commitment to Upper North Street,
Right, yeah.
that they're looking to perhaps try to join those two projects. I don't think that this will happen as quickly as North Street will, because there's so much more engineering that is involved. But it's nice to see that they're moving forward with it. They're at the 25% design. It would include, the project is being designed at a 50-mile-per-hour speed. It has 11-foot lanes, 8-foot shoulders, 5.5-foot sidewalks, guardrail, particularly at the curve, a 4-foot paved waterway, and there is a culvert, a 60-foot wide culvert below the road there by the school that is reportedly in very bad condition and would have to be replaced. So as much as I am loath to go anywhere near culverts ever again, this one is out of my hands, but it looks like it'll be part of this project.
Never mind.
No.
I was gonna say, is it someplace where there can be an easy detour around? You know.
Yeah, it's way too early,
right.
way too early for that, but hopefully.
Wishful thinking.
I know. So the project, one of the PowerPoint slides mentioned that the project will create improved access into the Buckland Rec Center and to the Mohawk Trail Regional School. So I've asked for a copy of the PowerPoint, and I will certainly share that with the district if they're not already in the loop. And any future invitations that I get, I'll be forwarding to the district as well as to Buckland Rec, so that we have as many people participating in the planning process as we possibly can. But that's exciting news, and in particular, having it extend all the way to Buckland Rec.
Yeah.
And having sidewalks so that the kids will be able to walk from the school to the rec
Right.
and back and into the village, I think is fantastic. And
It'll slow people down.
it'll slow people down, but I'm just thrilled that Mass
Yeah, me
DOT
too.
is throwing some real money
They
in
are.
our direction. This is a big project. So,
Designed for 50 mile an hour. I hope that the speed limit will not be increased to 50.
right, no, yeah, it will not, but
And all through the school area, it's 40, it's
Yeah,
supposed to
yeah,
be 40, but
yeah.
for years, I mean, kids have walked home from Mohawk and on the edge of the road.
Oh, yeah.
And even in the winter, if they plowed, there's not much room when you
No.
plowed, and, when I was the AD there, I was always worried about that.
yeah, and you can see on the plans that they're taking into consideration that they know where the tracks are.
Yes.
And so the road will be widened and realigned in the other direction. There will be some trees they've acknowledged that there are trees directly in front of Mohawk that they're working really hard to preserve as part of the project. So they're as far along as being able to identify trees.
Wow.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's great.
it is good.
And takings, they'll do the takings, right?
And they'll do all the takings, but it's all gonna be very similar to our North Street project. It would be temporary easements for construction, so
Okay.
there will be no permanent, or I can say this because it's not my project, but it sounds as if they understand their right-of-ways well enough to say that there does not look like a lot of permanent work has to be done.
And bike lanes.
And bike lanes, yeah, I'm
So,
thrilled, yeah.
And bike lanes on Upper North Street, or was that not possible?
No bike lanes on
That's-
Upper North Street.
That's a
I thought
shame,
you
but
said that at the meeting. You said that basically we would have a sidewalk and then there would be a
I think he did say that.
bike,
Well-
only on one side, so you've gotta go. And I'm saying, but
Yeah.
I was wishing there was none.
I think it's more of a wider shoulder.
Yeah,
I don't know that, because it was part of our design exemption, that a
Right.
full 8-foot bike lane,
Oh, yeah, no.
Would certainly not.
He didn't say that. He didn't say, but he said there would be one where,
that there's a broader shoulder,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
So that's exciting.
Absolutely.
it is.
Yeah, I also participated in a meeting with the Buckland COA representatives last Wednesday. They're following up on the MOU that you signed for Mass in Motion for a grant with $4,700 that would be available to them. They are excited with the prospect of this being renewable each year. but they feel the pressure to get it spent for this year by June 30th. They talked about a proposal to purchase something with some of the money, but use the rest of the funds for some outreach to try to get postcards or surveys out to residents, seniors in particular, about what other things could be, this money could be applied to in the future. So I'm going to work with them on getting that done as quickly as possible. And I also want to just acknowledge that those three are really sort of forces of nature, and our Buckland seniors are well represented by that.
They need to recruit
That-
members of the Board of Managers from
Yes,
Buckland. That's
well,
what we need right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, but that's certainly a great trio, and we're lucky to have them.
That's great.
I was a little bit overwhelmed in that meeting. Used to this, that is not.
Okay.
And then lastly, this is more of a public service announcement. Otis at Falls Cable reached out to let me know and to let Terry know that Comcast made the decision to move Falls Cable from Channel 17 to Channel 9. And there has not been a whole lot of outreach about that. It was on the bill that subscribers would have received in February, but probably in a fine print and not super noticeable. So please, I'm sure that if you're watching this, you already know, but others may have gone to Channel 17 and are thinking that Falls Cable is no longer on the air, but it is. It's just on Channel 9.
I don't remember what was on Channel 9, maybe one of the Boston stations or
Yeah.
something.
So, and that will probably be the case through their HD transition. So.
At which point it will change to one of the 800s
Yeah,
probably.
yeah. So-
Okay.
So if you have an opportunity to let anybody know, please
All
do.
right.
Please share.
On the website, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. If
Okay.
if you have questions about any other of the projects, I'm happy, but that's all I have to report tonight.
Very good. Thank you. Public comment? Any? All right. Volunteer recognition, Mary Knipe, is that the pronunciation of the Conservation Commission? Oh, come on, the Veterans Grave Officer,
Oh, let's check.
Les Chadwick, as usual, has placed flags at the veterans' graves in all of the cemeteries in Buckland and elsewhere. I think he actually goes beyond the
He's
border.
amazing.
He's amazing, and a volunteer. And I'm sure there are a lot of volunteers involved in the parades that will be happening as well. So we're grateful to all of them. Otherwise, the next select board meeting is the 5th Tuesday because of our slightly revised schedule for May. May 30th is the next meeting, and the annual town election is June 6th. Anything further? Hearing none, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
My second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed no. It's unanimous. Good evening.